Hola, hello. Bienvenidos al curso de Environmental Sciences de IEI High School. En este y los siguientes videos abordamos temas y aspectos muy importantes del medio ambiente, como el calentamiento global, el cambio climático y políticas medioambientales, entre otros. Lo haremos desde un punto de vista científico, basando nuestra información en estudios empíricos de científicos y organismos e instituciones internacionales expertos en la materia. First, we begin our introduction to the environmental sciences course by listing and briefly describing the factors that explain global warming. We will cover its definition, causes, and consequences, as well as explaining the dangers that living species are facing. We will finish by doing an experiment for you to understand how global warming is working in the Earth. The goal of today's lesson is to answer the following questions. Number 1, what is global warming? Number 2, how and why is Earth's temperature increasing? Number 3, how are humans consuming greenhouse gases? Number 4, are these gases the only contributing factors to global warming? And finally, we want to answer the question of why is global warming important? So let's begin. So what is global warming? Let's begin first with a quote of former President Barack Obama, who once said, "Climate change is no longer some far-off problem. It is happening here and it is happening now." This sentence perfectly summarizes the dangers that we as a living species are facing as a consequence of global warming and climate change. So when we talk about global warming, we're actually talking about the rising in the average surface temperature of the Earth. Although the temperature changes have always happened during the Earth's history, what makes this phenomenon of global warming dangerous is how fast it is happening now. So how and why is Earth's temperature increasing? Well, let's begin by talking about greenhouse gases and the greenhouse effect. We all know how a greenhouse works. The gases or the material of a greenhouse manage to keep the temperature within the structure, preventing the heat from escaping into the outside surface. So let's begin by talking about the greenhouse gases. These are mainly the following: carbon dioxide, also methane, nitrous oxide, and fluorinated gases. In a second, we will talk about these in more depth. These greenhouse gases trap heat in the atmosphere, preventing this from escaping into the space, hence creating a greenhouse effect within the atmosphere of the Earth. So if we increase the use of greenhouse gases, we will also increase the temperature of the Earth. Why? Well, let's see. How are humans consuming these greenhouse gases? Okay, so let's begin with carbon dioxide, also known as CO2. This is the result of burning fossil fuels, such as oil, natural gas, and coal, and also burning organic waste that humans and animals create. Thankfully, carbon dioxide is filtered through the plant's absorption. We can also talk about methane, CH4, that also comes from fossil fuels, livestock farming, and land use. In the following slide, we will talk about what we mean by using the words land use. We also have nitrous oxide, N2O, that comes from industrial activities, land use, and fossil fuels again. As we can see, fossil fuels play a major role in creating these greenhouse gases, and hence contributing to global warming. And then we also have fluorinated gases that come from several industrial processes. Okay, so greenhouse gases have always been present during Earth's history. They've been modifying Earth's climate without the intervention of human activities. However, it is important to talk about the Industrial Revolution. What happened in the Industrial Revolution? Well, basically, societies changed and shifted from more rural methods to industrialized societies. We began to use machinery, production, and transportation that required steam-powered and coal-fueled machinery. And we will talk about the importance of Industrial Revolution in the study of global warming. We also talk about land use. What are we talking about when we say land use? Well, land use, we have to talk about deforestation. What does deforestation mean? Basically, removing the trees and the forests in order to grow agriculture. Livestock, that is, working with animals, they also release natural gases. And by deforestation, by removing the forest and trees, we're removing the main filter of CO2. As we said earlier, carbon dioxide is mainly filtered through the plant's absorption. So are these gases, these greenhouse gases, the only contributing factors to global warming? Well, human activity is not the only factor contributing to global warming. We also have natural causes, such as volcanic eruptions, variations of solar radiation, and major weather phenomena. However, these natural phenomena, such as volcanic eruptions, have always been present. The Earth's climate has always been changing and adjusting, but following a constant and stable process. In the 19th century, Svante Arrhenius discovered that human activity could contribute to greenhouse gases through the use of CO2. And it was the Industrial Revolution, the major historical event that marks the incorporation of CO2 into human activity. That's why it is so important to talk about Industrial Revolution. A change in global warming since the Industrial Revolution has been studied as the major contributor to the greenhouse effect, and hence to what we talk about when we talk about global warming and its dangers nowadays. Okay, so finally, why is global warming important then? Okay, well, global warming is a natural phenomenon as long as it occurs the way that it happened before the Industrial Revolution. Why? Because these existing greenhouse gases would contribute to a stable and constant process of global warming. However, global warming since the Industrial Revolution, because of the incorporation of steam-powered and coal-fueled machinery and the incorporation of CO2 into human activity, is now a threat to the Earth's natural way of adjusting its temperature, because this human activity is increasing the greenhouse effect. This means that a process such as global warming that before the Industrial Revolution took thousands of years to happen, it is now taking only decades. Many are the consequences that follow this process, and the main reason why global warming is important is because the climate is changing faster than some living organisms can adapt to. We talk about global warming as a change of events. Basically, the increase in temperature because of the use of greenhouse gases is melting the ice of the North and South Pole. That means that we're destroying the land and the territories of animals. The melting ice will increase sea and ocean levels, and the rise in temperatures will also translate into extreme weather events. So as a summary, in order to talk about global warming, it is important to talk about greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, such as methane, such as nitrous oxide, and such as fluorinated gases are trapping heat within the Earth's atmosphere, increasing the temperature between the atmosphere and the Earth's surface. What happens then? Well, this increase in temperature is melting the ice in the North and South Pole. This melting ice is destroying the land of some living species, such as polar bears and penguins. The melting ice is also translating into rising of the ocean and sea levels, which could cause flooding of cities and villages. The rising temperatures also translates into extreme weather events, such as extreme periods of flooding or droughts. Okay, let's follow up now with the practice in order to understand what is happening in the Earth. Okay, for this experiment, you will need 2 thermometers, a glass bowl or a vase, and a pencil and piece of paper to write down your notes. We're going to observe how the greenhouse effect works. In order to do this, we're going to place both thermometers in a sunny area for 10 minutes and write down the temperature that they mark. Afterwards, we're going to place 1 thermometer in a sunny area inside the glass bowl or the vase, and we're going to cover this glass bowl with plastic wrap. You can also use a dark t-shirt. In the same sunny area, place the second thermometer outside the bowl, but next to it, so that it is easier to observe what happens. And finally, let it work for 15 minutes. Come back and write down the temperature of the 2 thermometers. And here are the questions. What is the difference between the temperature inside and outside of the vase or bowl? How are these temperatures different from the first time you measured them to the second time? How can you explain this? Link your explanation to your thoughts about what is happening to our planet because of global warming. Thank you for watching the video.